Good afternoon and welcome to the CPG 202 Improving Product Experience and Manufacturing. Hello, everyone. I'm David Ahuja. I lead the CPG industry practice here at AWS, and joining me today is Justin Hahnemann, who leads our biggest CPG segment, food and beverage. Our special guest today is Jeremy Gerard from Tyson Foods, who's here to share with us some stories and examples of how Tyson has innovated with our IoT technology and our manufacturing capabilities to really solve some complex problems and complex challenges that I think you will be able to relate to. Hopefully, what you walk away with from today is examples of how technology and things that may seem overwhelming can be solved easily by partnering with the right partners and solution providers to enable you to solve those problems. A couple of things I'm going to do before is just share a little bit about our CPG industry practice to tell you what we do and how we help customers like yourself. Justin's going to wrap us up by talking and giving you a little bit deeper example of what are the CPG solution frameworks and ways of working and how you can get started working with us. You're going to hear throughout the day, throughout the week here at reInvent that we always begin with the customer and work backwards. And that's what our team does. We're a group of CPG industry experts that are here as advisors to help our customers like you solve your most wicked problems. And so we spend a lot of our time talking to customers and actually, more importantly, listening to customers. And I wanted to share just a couple of things that we hear consistently as we talk with CPGs and consumer products companies like yourself. One, and first and foremost, is CPGs are about brands, and brands serve and provide value to consumers. And the consumers have been changing throughout the market for the last 10 years, even more so in the last 2 years, as we all know. We've seen consumers' expectations of brands go up significantly, but not just brands, their expectations of you, the company. They have higher expectations of the brands meeting their personalized needs. They have expectations of experiences with the brand to be very personalized to what they're looking for. And so CPG companies are really working with us, trying to make sure they have ways of understanding the consumer even more and be able to provide those experiences and personalized touch points that are relevant to consumers. And we saw this in the last year to 2 years where consumers were forced to change where they shop and how they shop. They changed from going into traditional stores, as we all know, to online. And this has created and accelerated the digital or e-commerce channel significantly. And so a lot of what we're talking to customers about and what we hear them asking for help and support on is how do they stay competitive? How can they be resilient long-term to compete in that digital market, but also recognizing that still for many that the significant part of their business is in that brick and mortar business. And they need to make sure there's a seamless connection with those consumers, regardless of where they're connecting, where it's on mobile, where it's on an e-commerce channel, or they're in a store purchasing those brands. So consumers or CPG customers are talking to us about consumers and ways of shopping. Important one also, and really relevant right now, is the supply chain space. And you'll hear a little bit more on this as Jeremy talks about just the importance of making sure what's happening in that manufacturing, where it begins, the flow of those products and flow to the consumer is important. And what we get a lot of questions on is how do I make sure that the planning process, whether it's demand forecasting or S&OP planning processes, are really designed in a way to make sure that the product is on the shelf when they need it. And this was a problem, as we all know, for a lot of companies that did not have the automation and the digital supply chain networks that they needed to be resilient into the future. So lots and lots of conversations with customers around this. Two things that every customer and every conversation we have always includes: first and foremost, data. Everything that I just talked about requires a connectivity of data, bridging data from many, many different siloed sources throughout the company, harmonizing that data and really making it relevant to the company through turning that data into insights and, quite frankly, more importantly, into actions. It's more than just improving your forecast. It's about automating and digitizing a lot of the process of how you improve your forecasting process. The other conversation we have with every customer is around AI ML. And this is very much a buzzword that we hear used all the time. But lots of CPG companies, what they have been doing is building their data science organizations to really enable them to make these model-based decisions. If they don't have a data science organization, they're partnering with companies like us and some of our many partners that have deep expertise in this space to really automate and move into the future with creating a more AI ML based end-to-end CPG process. And I'll give you some examples of that in a second. So these are 5 core things. Of course, we talk to CPGs and a lot more than this, but these are 5 core things that I would submit any winning CPG is deeply engaged with companies and partners like AWS to really help them solve in these areas. What we do as a CPG industry team is we work with these companies across the entire CPG value chain. And the way we say it is we help companies make products, move products, and market products. And we do all of this on the backbone of a very resilient data platform. We refer to that sometimes as intelligent enterprise, using data, using analytics throughout the enterprise to hit on every element from manufacturing to supply chain to marketing. Some examples of what we're doing here is as we engage with customers in this space of what we call make, move, and market, it really is about the foundation of, for example, helping a company be faster at getting a product to market. And this was very, very evident in the last 2 years when many companies, had online as their only channel to reach consumers. And so direct to consumer became a number one priority. What we've been able to do with some companies is leverage our heritage of Amazon. There are many different parts to Amazon, not just AWS, that we can partner with, such as Twitch, such as multi-channel fulfillment, which is the platform that allows and leverages Fulfilled by Amazon's capability and democratize distribution and shipments to the entire marketplace. So we're able to work with customers and very quickly and easily help them have a fulfillment process for their direct-to-consumer platform. We are able to partner with Amazon Pay. We're able to partner with Fraud Detector. So these are all DTC capabilities we can put together to help solve and accelerate the use of, or the launch of a new product to market very quickly, very easily, leveraging the entire AWS and Amazon network. We help companies with advertising as well. So Amazon Advertising, we partner closely with. Amazon Advertising is able to help companies make smarter, better decisions around one of their biggest spend, which is advertising, whether it's digital or online or offline. They're able to have great insights to help a customer be smarter about their return on ad spend and how they're spending every important dollar. Again, to make sure those investments are valuable to the consumer with the right message, the right personalized message. We've got capabilities like Amazon Personalize, which is a ability to, as a consumer, come on to one of your sites or any kind of connectivity to allow that consumer to find a lookalike or a similar. If you like this product, you might like this product. And so Amazon Personalize is a capability available leveraging the experience that we've gained from Amazon Retail. So we work across a lot of companies, large companies like Nike, and helping them with their social graph to connect all their consumer touchpoints using our Neptune platform, or helping someone like Kellogg's as they had significant amount of data to process for their trade funds optimization. So we're able to shorten the time frame, allow Kellogg's to have a lot more models running, and be able to make smarter decisions on their investments with trade funds. So across this spectrum of make, move, market, we're engaging with customers in many different areas, from online direct to consumer, all the way to the foundation of enabling them in that entire consumer journey. And we like to say we're helping them from the point of the consumers exploring that product, from the desire of that product, all the way to the consumption, the using that product, the delight of that product. From desire to delight, we're able to enable that consumer and that customer through the entire consumer journey. One area that we're investing a lot is this idea of IoT and processing at the edge. For a lot of CPG customers, data is flowing in from these older manufacturing plants. They need to combine information from old plants and new plants, and there's an incredible amount of data exhaust coming off of these manufacturing lines. Capturing this data is hugely important. Taking advantage and leveraging that data in a productive way to make reduce expenses, to minimize unplanned downtime. And we've done some work that's available that you can look at with Georgia Pacific. And you're about to hear from Jeremy on the work that Tyson's done. And I love what Jeremy is going to share because it takes very basic examples of things that they need to do in a manufacturing site, and they're able to leverage computer vision. They're able to leverage their ML models to really improve and modernize in what they're doing in these plants. So just wanted to give you an example of what we're doing as a CPG industry team. You'll hear from Justin later on just ways that you can come work with us so we can do the same things that we've done with Tyson. What I'd love to do now is turn it over to Jeremy to have him share with you what they're doing at Tyson. I think you'll enjoy what he's got to share. Jeremy?
Thanks a lot, David. Hi, my name is Jeremy Gerard, and I'm the lead developer on the emerging technology team at Tyson Foods. I'm going to tell you today about a journey that we've taken with the help of AWS and how we've transformed our business using computer vision. To start out, I'd like to give a little bit of background about Tyson Foods and all of the opportunity for potential that computer vision has. Then we're going to talk about how we started out and our first attempt at implementing a computer vision solution in production, and all of the gaps and weaknesses that we found. And then we'll transition into how AWS helped us identify those gaps and fill them and solve a lot of the issues that we were having. And finally, we'll talk about some of the results and solutions that I'm pretty proud that we've been able to roll out in the meantime, and also where we're going in the future. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard about Tyson Foods, but many may not know that we are the biggest protein producer in the US and the second biggest in the world. We comprise 140,000 team members at over 240 plants worldwide. Part of my job in Tyson IT is just seeing how we can figure out how to use technology and innovation to improve the way that we feed the world. So there's a lot of different ways that computer vision can help Tyson. We can use models like object detection for tracking products and monitoring throughput. We can use anomaly detection models for detecting defects in products or defects in equipment to help with team member safety and customer safety. We can use image classification models for inventory tracking, and we can use any combination of the above to create insights about the business and provide predictive and prescriptive analytics to help improve the business with data. So now I'm going to tell you about how we got started with all this in mind and our first attempt at a computer vision project. So the first thing that we did was a little bit of a shotgun approach. We were targeting a plant in Shelbyville, Tennessee that is a fresh tray pack plant. It's a term that is just referring to the styrofoam trays with the shrink wrap that have breasts, wings, or thighs that you see on grocery store shelves. Our plan was just to go in there and see if we could improve the way that they track their inventory. We had heard from the business that there was a little bit of an issue in accuracy, and we wanted to see if we could go in and put a camera above the ingress to cold storage and collect images and train a model to automatically identify those products. We really had no clear direction. Clearly, we went there with a 3D printer, as you can see, and printed a camera mount for the camera. That's all of us in the picture in the corner with smocks and hairnets trying to debug code on the plant floor. So what we didn't realize at the time was having very little experience with computer vision was how difficult it would be to train a model across 300 SKUs using just our laptops. Around the same time, our manager at the time had gone to Seattle and visited the Amazon Go store and saw how they were automating the checkout and retail side of things with cameras. So we began to collaborate with them to see how they could help us apply similar solutions to our own problems. We had two goals in mind. Firstly was to develop a streamlined, sustainable way to handle all the data labeling and annotation. And the second was to see if we could build an integrated pipeline to handle all the images and data and deploy a model out at scale. The first thing that we solved was for the labeling, and that was where Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth came in. We were able to build a custom interface using only 29 lines of HTML, and in pretty quick order, we had 6 people labeling thousands of images across 120 classes in only about 4 hours. For the pipeline, we ended up with a little bit of a convoluted solution. We had all kinds of services from across the AWS ecosystem connected up into a massive pipeline that was a bit of a Rube Goldberg machine. Step functions, Lambda, Glue, Athena, RDS, ECR, CloudWatch. But fortunately, it worked and was successful. And so from starting this project in 2018 to having a solution deployed a year later, we finally were able to scale out to 8 plants and run in successful production a year after that. We even got mentioned in the Wall Street Journal, and from all perspectives, it looked like a huge success. But unfortunately, we still were really struggling. What we had built was too complex and had too many components and was too customized for the solution, and we were having a real issue trying to hand it off and having other people to support it. There's a quote that comes to mind from Dave Limp, the SVP of Devices and Services at Amazon.com, that really described the situation that we were in at the time. The best way to fail at inventing something is by making it somebody's part-time job. And that was the situation we were in. Because we couldn't hand off this project that we had built, we were stuck supporting it ourselves and weren't able to continue to innovate and build more computer vision solutions. So that was really the start of our journey. And since then, our collaboration with Amazon has brought us so much farther. They've helped us transform in many different areas. But today I want to talk to you about 4 of them. How we've transformed in terms of our software, in terms of our hardware, in IT ops, and our culture and philosophy as well. First, the software is an easy one to talk about. The state machine on the left is what we had built in AWS Step Functions previously. That was one of 2 state machines that we had, and altogether it was over 40 different states that were all linked together. We made the transition to the exact same functionality of that state machine to using Amazon SageMaker pipelines with only 3 states. In terms of the hardware, we started on a really steep curve of how were we going to take this model and deploy it at the edge and have it supported. We were having to work with the Linux team, the VM team, the networking team to set up a Kubernetes cluster on an Ubuntu VM on a Dell Blade in a server closet. After that, we made the migration to AWS Panorama. And as a managed service, it's essentially just plug and play. We just submitted a ticket to the networking team for a static IP, and it was already hooked up into our environment, and we were ready to deploy applications out to the edge. I'll also note that that image on the left is not our actual server closet. I wish I could show you our own because it's much worse. In terms of IT ops, which in this case is ML ops and DevOps alike, we really came from a situation where we were kind of just figuring it out as we went with not a lot of direction, no streamlined pipelines or CI/CD or testing process, and what we had built was not modularized and was very customized for the specific solution. What we transitioned to was a much more streamlined model where our team could act nimbly with short cycle CI/CD and have version code, not just for version control, not just for code, but also for data and models. We embraced serverless architecture and managed services, so there was less for us to keep track of and debug. And we adopted a full-scale model that was repeatable, it was supportable and scalable across the enterprise and production as well. And lastly, with all of our collaboration in AWS, we gleaned a lot of culture just from exposure to them as well. We learned things about the ideal size for a team, that it should be exactly the number of people that it takes to feed with 2 pizzas, the importance of having a single leader in charge of an individual project, having a business engagement model and a deployment model that is phased, going from a proof of concept to a pilot to something that's scaled enterprise-wide and fit for it in production. A document model as well, including documents like a narrative, a PRFAQ, and a path to production, which I didn't like doing at first, but once you get it done for a bunch of projects, you see the value in understanding how standardizing documentation makes it really easy to find things later and makes it really easy to hand things off to other teams for support as well. So after all this transformation, what do we have to show for it? We actually, I'm proud to say, have completed 5 different computer vision proof of concepts in the last 6 months. Here's a few of them that I want to show you. So the first one is another classification model, which is really similar to the first one that we did in the poultry plant. But this time we were doing it for the beef side of the business. The main difference here is that what took us a year to build the first time around, we were able to build and deploy into production in 6 weeks. You can see that the results are pretty promising with almost 99.9% accurate model. Here's another one of our successful computer vision solutions. It's an object detection model that we deployed into the same type of fresh tray pack plant that our initial model was deployed in. But this one instead is counting the trays as they're being placed into these baskets. You can see if you watch that the model will keep track of how many products get placed into an individual basket, and then when the team member places a new basket on top, the count will start over. This is really advantageous for us and gives us insights into the throughput and output per line and an idea of our overall production. This one's another really interesting one. This is at some of our poultry plants that have shackles, like you can see here, where we were informed by the business that these plastic pins that hold them in place sometimes had a tendency to fall, and that causes an issue for worker safety. It can potentially fall into some of the line equipment and cause unplanned downtime where we'll have to shut down the line and get somebody from maintenance to fix it. So in this case, we actually used the AWS Lookout for Vision solution to collect images and train an anomaly detection model that will set off a live alert in real time on the plant floor if any of those pins look defective or deformed in any way. This last one's great too. What you're seeing is chicken nuggets on their way out of an oven, and this model is looking down overhead doing quality inspection. So the different colored boxes that you see are different types of defects that you might find on a chicken nugget. So anything from breading voids to burns to a malformed nugget or 2 that are stuck together, it'll catch them all and inform somebody working on the line so they can remove them and they don't end up in front of the customers. Through all of these, we've continued to improve. I am really excited for taking solutions like these and continuing to work with the business to deliver even more automation through computer vision. We have not had any issue handing off a lot of these much more compact and streamlined solutions to other people in our organization. And in turn, there's been a real shift in the culture and excitement as well around what we can do with computer vision to improve how we feed the world. Now, here's Justin Hahnemann, who's going to talk about the CPG solution framework.
Hey guys, Justin Hahnemann here. I lead our worldwide CPG food and beverage business. And man, was that not an awesome presentation from Jeremy and Tyson Foods? I've spent time with the Tyson team. I've been in their production facilities. I've seen the power of bringing technology to life through the mechanisms that you heard from Jeremy. And it's just awesome to see how technology is just impacting not only their supply chain and production processes, but giving them new insights that they didn't have before. And so I'm going to spend just a few minutes sharing with you a broader view of how this is playing into some trends and things happening in our industry. I'm going to share with you a customer example in addition to the Tyson story that you just heard. And then the final thing I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of detail on how you get started. Like where do you even begin when you think about a program like this? So one thing's for sure, if you think about this year, actually early in the year, e-commerce was a top priority for most of our consumer products brands. So, and again, remember, think here, broader industry perspective on what our customers are asking of us here at AWS. So early in the year, e-commerce was huge. As the year has progressed, it has become everything supply chain, manufacturing, and I'll throw out some of the buzzwords that you may be familiar with. So connected factory, digital manufacturing, industrial IoT, Industry 4.0, digital twin, supply chain visibility, like all of that. And they're all very unique things. Forecasting and what does AI have to do with forecasting? Like all of that is just top of mind. Like every day right now, we're taking customer calls and working through solutions that meet the need in this space. And the Tyson story and examples is like one way of bringing technology to life. But for us and for our overall customer base, wow, I mean, like it is just hot right now. And it's exciting to see so much focus in this space. It's exciting to see the technology, the data, and the analytics that are applied in it, like truly advanced and evolving from where it has been over the last number of years. My background, I actually spent 10 years at Coca-Cola in the industry. I spent a couple years at Georgia Pacific. And then on the tech consulting side, I ran CPG for Teradata and spent time in that space in Accenture. So like I've had some good framework to see like what it's like to be on the customer side and what it's like to see some of these solutions evolving. And I'll tell you for right now, it's one of the most exciting times in our industry because of things like what's happening in the supply chain space. You can see a number of other trends on this slide, but the ones we're really focused on today are all around supply chain and manufacturing. So what are we doing about it at AWS? Well, what we're definitely doing about it is we're saying, hey, we can help you with your cloud capabilities. We can help you with your infrastructure, your technology, kind of the things we're known for, right? In 2006, AWS was created as it is the platform Amazon.com. And that technology has become a real enabler for the vast majority of customers in both consumer products and retail. So you take that as like table stakes for us at AWS, like what else are we bringing our customers? And you see on this slide here, some of the things we're developing and working on. So these are actually solutions that go beyond just cloud, right? So these are solutions for things like on time and full, a huge focus this year, right? Many of you nodding your heads, raising your hand, saying, yeah, we're dealing with that. Forecast accuracy. I can tell you, when I was back at Coca-Cola, forecast accuracy was an issue. And right now it is beyond an issue and a challenge for most of our customers because of the uncertainty and the shifts in the supply chain over the last 18 to 24 months. But there's new technology there that can be leveraged, and that makes it exciting. And so we're putting solutions around that. Things like predictive maintenance, I'm going to talk about in a moment. You heard about connected factory and some of the elements of looking at data and a production facility. There are many other things you see here on this page on the bottom. And these are like turnkey solutions that we're bringing to market for our customers in CPG. 90% of what we spend for solutions is because of what a customer has asked us to do. So again, 90% of what we create is because customers have asked us for it. The other 10% of our spend around solutions is on solutions where we think there could be potential for our customers to need that down the road. benefits. So you see that coming to life on this page here. So let's dive into the supply chain, and I'll call it the industrial space, a bit more detail. Like, how do we approach it, right? So one of the first things I do with a customer when I'm working through some of their needs and some of the gaps and opportunities in their business process is walk through this page and identify, hey, what are the real use cases that we could potentially address? So, for example, improving asset productivity in your production facilities, improving capacity utilization, lowering infrastructure costs, reducing production downtime. These are all like use cases. It's important for you to define those first before you work into the data that supports it, and then like the technology or the partners that can bring solutions to it. But you can see here, these are bucketed in a number of different spaces. And then the next thing after that is to ensure you have some sort of structure or approach to bringing to life the ability to solve these use cases. The way we do that is typically in a 6 to 8 week like proof of value. So we'll say, here's the use case we're trying to solve. Here are the benefits that could come from that. Here's the data that supports it. Here's where that data is today. Here's some of the technology that we could apply to that problem to solve it. Now let's go test it out and learn from that. And if it works, then we can commercialize it. And in some cases, it may be a solution we offer. And in other cases, it may be a solution that a partner offers, and we can bring those partners to the table to help address some of the things like you see on this page here. Like, I might have a need to keep some of my technology and analytics on-prem. That's okay. And while in the meantime, I can have other elements of my technology in the cloud. So this is just a way to think about it in terms of like how you'd approach a use case or a situation or a solution opportunity. So some examples are in addition to what you heard from Tyson today around things like automated packaging inspection or looking at pathing in production facilities. And then another one that's really interesting in our world is things like product fill rate, right? And you think about fill rates on beverage product in production and manufacturing environment, it's pretty significant in terms of being able to take information or taking images and then convert that into data and analytics quickly. So let me talk about one other use case, one that's near and dear to my heart. Again, having spent 10 years at Coca-Cola, I spent a lot of time in the Coca-Cola system, as we like to call it, Coca-Cola IncoCheck. So for those that don't know CCI, let me just give you a little bit of framework. They're the 6th largest Coke bottler. Okay, they serve 400 million consumers, 400 million. They operate in 10 countries, and hold that just for a moment, because when you hear the countries, you'll understand some of the logistics challenges there. They make each year 1.2 billion cases of beverage product. Okay. Now, I mentioned their geographies, and if you had 10 states in the United States and you were distributing and manufacturing product there, that would be an interesting situation, and one that's been solved for things like direct store delivery and other routes to market. But they operate in Iraq, and Jordan, and Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, and Pakistan, and Syria, and Turkey. Okay, every one of these countries has unique aspects in terms of not only the production and manufacturing environment, but also the route to market, right? And think about that. You've got production happening in multiple countries. You know, if you're Coca-Cola IncoCheck, you want to have visibility in terms of what's happening in those production facilities. You may have similar processes that are happening in different facilities that you want to benchmark or learn from or leverage for betterment. And so I recently interviewed the Chief Digital and Information Officer from Coca-Cola IncoCheck, Layla, and she walked through this entire case with me here. And it was one where they initially started looking at the clean in place process. And one of the big goals was to reduce water and energy, right? So what they had to do was they created a digital twin. That's right. They created a digital twin, which is basically a technology replica of what's happening in the production facility. And from that, they gave them visibility of like key performance indicators that they didn't have before. They could identify root causes of problems, and they could actually get to where they could predict challenges before they even happen. And now they're taking that method and model and rolling that out across the production facilities. And you can see here on this page some of the benefits in terms of energy savings, water savings, and overall process savings. So just another great example of taking a use case or a business problem or focused opportunity around the clean in place process, applying technology, leveraging data, and then coming to solutions or benefits that are not only helping Coca-Cola IncoCheck, but helping up the other global bottlers that can leverage a similar model. So with that, I'll just say, in terms of thinking about how you get started, the key first is identifying a use case or a problem or a situation or opportunity. And sometimes that may not be easy, right? One thing you can do though is learn from others. Learn from what Tyson's has done, for example, and that could give you your experiment to go try. Then look at the data and where it sits to enable it. Then think about, who's a good partner? Is it AWS? Is it someone else? Hopefully it's us that can help you think through that problem or that opportunity. And then what is the potential solution that would come out of that? And how can you get to something that's you can test and trial and learn from very quickly, and then apply the learnings and commercialize. So with that, thank you so much for being with us today. It has been a lot of fun spending the time with you, going through not only what Tyson is doing, but just thinking about the broader industry. And our goal here today is that you take away something that you can go and apply back at your business. So thank you.